Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. My name is Surendra Jagannatham. In this lecture, I would like to give you a brief overview about all the concepts which we are covering as part of this training program. Initially, we will start our training program with a Python programming language, all the basic concepts involved in Python programming language like a variable, data types, and the methods of creation, accessing of a data in a different classes, introduction to unit testing, all those concepts which are required for us to work on automation testing. We are going to study as an introduction to a programming language in a first set of videos, and in the next set of videos, we are jumping onto automation testing. How can we install Selenium for Python? How to write down a basic program? And within this training program, we have created about 15 to 20 unique scenarios on different applications. The best example for this scenario is assume that we have a drag and drop functionality in your application. So within these scenarios, we are going to see how to handle this drag and drop functionality. What are all the commands we have to use within this Python, and a simple example also we created in the training program. Every lecture, if you look into this training, it's going to be more and more practical oriented. So we have a 20 unique scenarios, and all these scenarios covers drag and drop down, handling the data from an Excel file, utilizing a page object model, integration with the Jenkins, GitHub, handling a drop down. If we have any data in a browser, how to retrieve the data from a browser. Like this, we have a categorized different sets of scenarios, and we prepared all the topics in those scenarios level itself. The ultimate objective of this training program is to gain confidence on a tool, and at the end of the training program, you will be in a position to crack an interview and even to work on any projects. Cool. That's all I have, guys. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. My name is Surendra. Today, we are going to see a brief introduction to Python programming language. So before jumping on to Selenium and how the Selenium with Python will work, we should have a basic idea on a Python programming language so that we can use this syntax and we can write down our Selenium code. So learning Python is the most important thing. So let us start with a basic introduction to Python. So Python is very simple programming language. So even if you are new to the programming, you can learn easily without facing any issues. So if you are new to your programming, for sake, if you are from a non-IT background and you don't have any idea on a programming language, it's easy for everyone to learn Python without facing any issues. The main features of this Python are readable, easy to learn, open source, cross-platform, and we have large standard library and even efficient memory management. Okay, so these are all the various features of Python which makes it more and more powerful. So let us start with a simple example of readable. So Python is a very readable language. So usually everyone can simply understand the syntaxes and they can follow it. And the second thing is easy to learn. Learning Python is easy as this is expressive and a high level language, so that anyone without having any background of a programming skills, they can easily understand and learn this programming language. And the next one is it's an open source tool. Open source means anyone can download this Python for free of cost, and they can use it in their projects. And it supports cross-platform. Python is available and it can be run on various operating systems such as Mac, Windows, Linux, and Unix. These are all the various operating systems it supports. So which makes it most portable and compatible language for different operating systems. And the next one, the features out over here is large standard library. what exactly it means. Python comes with a large standard library that has some handy codes and functions which we can use while writing our code in Python. So it has some standard set of libraries available. We can simply reuse those libraries and we can use it in our automation world. So we will see moving further what exactly is the standard library and how we are going to use that particular one. Okay, so these are all the various features which makes Python more and more powerful. Good enough. So usually a simple question will rise in our mind. What can you do with this Python? Right? So what exactly the ultimate objective of this Python? You may be wondering what are all the applications does the Python supports? We can do web development, we can do machine learning, data analysis, scripting, game development, and even the desktop applications also we can develop using Python. So as it is an open source tool, it has these many features. Majority of the people are using this particular programming language, and of course we are using the same programming language for our automation testing. So before jumping on to automation testing, first of all, you should know, right, how to create a variable in Python, how to define a class in a Python and all those things. And prior to that, first of all, we need to know whether Python is installed in our machine or not. We have to cross check. So in the next video, we are going to see how to install and configure Python in your machine. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. In the last session, we have seen a brief introduction to Python. Now, in the today's lecture, we are going to study how to configure Python in your machine. So here, if you observe this slide, we have split down the steps into two parts. One is for a Windows machine and another is for a Mac machine. If you are using a Mac machine, follow these steps. I'm using a Windows machine, hence I'm going to explain these steps which are related to Windows machine. So here, the various steps before jumping on to installation, first of all, we need to see whether Python is installed in our machine or not. For which I'm opening the command prompt and typing Python hyphen hyphen version. So whenever I enter that, see nothing is getting displayed here. So definitely we have to install Python to your machine. So what I'm going to do right now, you can go ahead and search for Python installation. You can go ahead and search in a browser for Python installation. So Python download, I'm searching it in my Chrome browser. I'm clicking on a first link, which is navigating to Python official website downloads page. And here depends on your need or operating system, you can download it. Mine is an Windows operating system, so I'm directly selecting download Python 3.8.1 link. So whenever I selected that, it will take a few seconds to download the Python exe file. See, for now it's downloading this exe file. As usual, once after the exe file got downloaded, we can follow the regular installation steps just by double clicking on that particular file. So I'm performing a double click operation on that downloaded exe file. Below, installation prompt will display. So install Python 3.8.1 and install now to this particular folder. So this is the folder where it is getting installed. And moreover, here you have a checkbox, add Python 3.8 to the path. I'm just selecting this checkbox for now. We'll see what exactly the significance of this checkbox. So I'm selecting the first option, install now to this folder. So as soon as I selected that, it's prompting me a confirmation message. I'm going ahead and clicking on a S button in a confirmation message. It's starting the installation and it will take a few seconds to finish the installation. And guys, if you observe in a previous window, we selected one checkbox, add to the path. What exactly the meaning is? Usually, whenever you are dealing with any kind of an open source software, we will update the software installation path to the environmental variables so that from wherever you are in a command prompt, you can easily access that particular software. Let this installation complete so that I can show you how can we add it manually, or as we have already selected the checkbox where it's going to update it. Let us see that particular one once this installation got completed. Say installation is in progress, and again it will take a few minutes to finish that particular path. And earlier it's shown a customized path where the installation is going to happen. It's there under the C drive, users, Srujan, app data, and within this app data local, and here you can find this Python. Under the app data you can find this Python. Let this installation finish and you can see this particular one. Okay, within the app data itself, it's installing. Okay, so once after the successful installation, this is the screen it's going to display. And here a warning message it is displaying, disable path length limit. I'm just clicking on that particular warning message, nothing more than that. So once this is done, so the setup was successful, close this pop-up. Now what I'm going to do right now means, see, we choose the option to update that particular path in an environmental variables. So right click on this PC, go to properties, and here advanced system settings. And from where I'm picking up the environmental variables. So whenever we pick the environmental variables, see here under the path, see users Srujan programs Python. This path got updated here under this variables. Click on a edit button for this path. See here, you can find that this is the path for this Python. See, the Python path got updated here. See users Srujan programs. So here we are in a local and then programs, and here you have a Python, and this version got successfully installed, and this is got updated in an environmental variables. Not only Python guys, whenever you are dealing with any open source tools like Android operating system, Java, Maven, all these install locations, we should update. We have to update in an environmental variables so that wherever you are, if you try to access that particular software from the command prompt, you can recognize it. See, let me launch my command prompt again. And now I'm stating as a Python hyphen version. See, now it is displaying as Python 3.8.1. Successfully, I can see my version here. With this, whenever I see this version, I can confirm that I have a successfully installed Python to my machine, and even I have a configured the environmental variables in my machine. So this is the step how you need to go with the installation. And once after you are done with the Python, the next and the most important thing which we need to take care is about a pip. So what exactly this pip is? Pip is a package management system used to install and manage the software packages written in Python. See, a simple thing is using Python, you need to write down a Selenium program. So using a pip, we will be installing that particular Selenium to your machine. So pip is a predefined software which is required for us to manage all the packages which were written on top of a Python. Okay, in a simple words, I can say whatever the Python standard libraries are there, we can install all those standard libraries using this Python itself. Many packages can be found in a default storage for packages and their dependency via pip. So for the Python versions which is greater than 3.4, or we can say Python 3, by default we have a pip installed. Okay, if you are using a latest version, a 3.x version of a Python, by default a pip is installed. How would I know whether pip got installed for me or not? The first way is check your Python version. See, my Python version is 3.8.1, which is a 3.x. As per this definition, I can confirm that a pip was predefinedly installed in my machine. To cross check that, what I want to do means I need to run this command, which is pip hyphen hyphen version. So pip hyphen hyphen version. So whenever I enter that, see here, pip 19.2.3 in this particular location for this Python 3.8. So you no need to install this one explicitly, which was already installed. So using this pip itself, we will be using, or you will be installing all the Selenium packages and everything. So this is the key for us. Okay, so this is the way how you can install Python to your machine. And these are all the various steps, guys. In the next lecture, we will see what are all the various editors we can use and how to install an editor or how to configure an editor we are going to study in the next session. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. In the last session, we discussed about how to install and configure Python in our machine. Today, we are going to see a brief introduction about the editors which we are going to use, and then how to install those editors and configure those editors. So immediately a quick question will rise in our mind. What exactly an editor is? See, a simple point out over here is I'm using a PowerPoint presentation as my editor, where in which I'm writing down the detailed information about a particular software or a tool, and I'm sharing my screen or sharing my presentation, so which is an editor for me. The similar way, in order to write down a Python program, even there should be an editor for us, and using that particular editor itself we can write down our programs. Okay, those editors people usually call it as an IDE. IDE, it means basically it's an integrated development environment. What will happen with this particular IDE? It is a software that consolidates the basic tools which are required to write and test the program in any certain languages. Typically, an IDE contains a code editor, compiler, interpreter, and a debugger that you can access it at a same place through the IDE user interface. Okay, that's fine. So what kind of a IDE you want to use for this Python then? So we can use a n number of options. Among those, the first and a most frequently used option is a PyCharm, and the second option is an Eclipse editor. So in this lecture, let us see how can we use PyCharm. So it's an explicit editor, so definitely you have to download it and you have to install it. So let us just see the installation process of this PyCharm now. As per this presentation, we have a reference link from where we can download the PyCharm. So directly copy this link and hit it on your browser. So I'm just hitting it in my browser now, and it will navigate to an downloads page of this PyCharm, which is a editor for Python. And here you have two options. If you can see, one is a professional edition and another one is a community edition. So which is a free open source tool. Download this particular one. Once after you downloaded this community edition, it's going to download an exe file in your machine. Okay, so once the exe file got downloaded, like as usual, you can double click on that exe file and follow the installation steps. So let me click on this the download option. Again, it will take a few seconds to download that particular exe file. See, PyCharm community edition.exe file is getting downloaded, and it will take a few seconds to complete the download. And as soon as it got downloaded, simply double click on that particular file and follow the installation. Usually the installation is one and the same for all the exe files. Earlier we have installed Python, right? Once the exe file got downloaded, double click and continue with the following steps. The similar way the PyCharm is also one and the same. Okay, let this download complete and then we can proceed with the installation parts. Okay, so the download was completed, guys. So I'm just selecting this exe file, just clicking on an exe file, which is opening the installation prompt. Okay, so let us see. So here, the installation prompt got displayed and it is asking me to go ahead with a confirmation. So I'm clicking on an S button to proceed with the installation. And here, welcome to PyCharm Community Edition setup. Click on a next button, and it is having a default destination folder where this installation is happening. I'm not changing this path, whichever the default path it got populated, I'm leaving that particular option and I'm clicking on a next button. As soon as I clicked on a next button, such kind of an options are populating for me. Create a desktop shortcut and all these options. From all these things, I'm selecting these desktop shortcut along with update the path environmental variables. These two things I'm selecting and click on next button. As soon as you clicked on a next button, it is prompting me with such options. And finally, I'm clicking on an install button now. As soon as you clicked on an install button, it will take a few seconds to complete the installation of a PyCharm. And once it got a successfully installed, as we have a selected an option to create a desktop icon, upon installation, it will be creating an icon on my desktop where we can launch that particular editor. Okay, so let us see this particular one. It will take a few seconds again to finish the installation. Usually, whatever the installation might be, depending on a software size, it will take a minimum amount of time, which is from 1 minute to 2 to 3 minutes, depending on a size of that particular software. Okay, the installation process is about to finish, and once it got a finish, then we will see the further options in the pie chart. Okay, see, the installation got successfully finished, and here there are two options which it prompted. Your computer must be restarted in order to complete the installation of a PyCharm. Do you want to reboot it now? So I don't want to reboot it now. I want to do it manually later. I'm choosing that option and clicking on a finish button. That's it. The installation got completed. If you can see on my desktop, I can find this PyCharm icon on my desktop. See here, the highlighted one. It got successfully installed in my machine. So this is the way how to create or how to install this PyCharm. And then we do have another option, which is an Eclipse editor, which we will see in the next lecture. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Hello. Hi everyone. So in the today's lecture, let us see how to configure this PyDev to your Eclipse editor. Eclipse is another type of an editor where majority of the people are using in the real world. So people who are choosing Java programming language, they use this Eclipse editor. So let us use the same Eclipse editor for our Python programming. So what I'm going to do right now is let me switch to this new window. Eclipse editor free download, search for that and click on a first link. Again, Eclipse is going to download an exe file for us. Double click on that exe file, follow the installation steps, and once after the Eclipse got successfully installed, you can find an icon on your desktop like this. Launch your Eclipse editor. I'm just launching my Eclipse editor. So whenever you are opening your Eclipse editor for the very first time, it will prompt with the workspace in which folder you want to save your test scripts. So I'm leaving the default folder and I click on an OK button now. It will take a few seconds to load the Eclipse editor. At the very first time, whenever you are opening the editor, it will prompt us with some options. And the top right corner, you can find a workbench. Just click on that workbench, which will display the actual code editor for us. So this is how the Eclipse editor looks like. Now we need to install this Python to our Eclipse editor, for which here I have a listed down the various steps. Go to help, marketplace. In an Eclipse editor, we have this help option, and at last but one, we have an Eclipse marketplace. Click on that. Once the screen got populated, search for PyDev. So go back here. So still it is loading the marketplaces. Once it got loaded, whenever there is a search text field got enabled, then search for PyDev. Okay, so let us see, let it prompt these options so that we can install these PyDev to our editor. See, all these options got loaded. Now I'm searching for PyDev and click on a go button. I just entered PyDev and clicked on a go button. The search results are getting displayed for me. See here, PyDev Python IDE for Eclipse 7.4.0, and I have an install button. Just click on this install button. and it is prompting me with all the options, and you have to follow certain steps to finish this installation. See, by default all the options are getting displayed, and click on a confirm button, and as soon as you clicked on a confirmation button, it will navigate to the next screen where I need to accept my license. So I accept the terms and conditions and click on a finish button. As soon as you clicked on a finish button, it will take a few seconds to finish this installation to your editor. And in the meantime, once after the installation was successfully completed, it will ask us to restart our Eclipse editor. This time it's not asking to restart your machine, it's just asking to restart this editor itself. We can simply restart this editor and you can see whether this one got successfully installed or not. And usually a quick question will rise in our mind. How would I know whether this installation was successfully happened or not? See, we have these steps to install, right? So once after you navigated to a marketplace and search for PyDev, if it was already installed, you can find an option as an install, with which we can confirm that it was successfully installed. And even here also, on the top right corner, you do have an option to see whether the installation was successfully happened or not. So let us see that. Let this installation finish so that we can see the further options. See guys, it's prompting me to restart my editor. I'm just clicking on an S button. It will relaunch my Eclipse editor. And now once the Eclipse editor got relaunched, I need to go to a perspectives to switch my complete view to a Python editor view. So let us see how this is going to happen. It will take again a few seconds to load this editor. So let us see. Yeah, this got loaded now. On a top right corner, by default, it is in a Java. And next to the Java, you have a debug. And next to that, you have a Java EE. And if you mouse over on that, it's displaying as an open perspectives. Just click on that. See, it will display an option of a PyDev. See, we have installed the PyDev. So what this perspective means, this is an editor which it will convert it into a Python editor way. So click on an OK button. See, the editor UI got changed and here the option got selected as a PyDev. Now, once after you created this one, what else we need to do for an Eclipse editor means we need to go do a further configuration within an Eclipse editor, which I'll show you in a minute. So before jumping on to a further program creation and a further configuration in an editor, let us try to completely configure this PyDev in our machine. Go to help, install a new software, and here search for PyDev. Okay, just search for PyDev and URL will be displayed, pydev/updates. Select this one and here you have an optional one. I'm not selecting that particular optional one and I'm clicking on a next button. So this is another simple installation which we need to do on top of the installation what we have done. These two steps you need to follow. And again, it will take a few more minutes to finish this installation. Once after this installation got completed, then we will see the further configuration within our Eclipse editor. And by following, just a click on a next button and all those steps, the installation got completed. See here, it's just asking us to restart. Just click on a restart now. It will restart our editor. So these are the two installations which we need to do for our Eclipse editor. And now once this installation got completed, once the Eclipse editor got launched, let us create a new Python project. So go to file and here new. See here, I can find an options which is a PyDev project PyDev. All these options related to Python are getting displayed for me, from which I'm picking on the first option, which is a PyDev project. And I'm giving a unique name to my Python project as Python demo. I have given a unique name, Python demo. And here an error message is displaying project interpreter not specified. So what exactly this interpreter means, where exactly the Python got installed, you have to specify that particular one here. So among all these things, you have an option. Please configure an interpreter before proceeding. Select this one, and I just want to go with manual configuration. Select this manual configuration. This pop-up is getting displayed, and here you have a bunch of options. On the top right corner, browse for the folder where Python exe file is there. Just click on that one, and let us see where exactly we have installed it. And now earlier, this is what the Python installer location is there. So I'm directly copying that a Python installer location, and I am directly pasting it here, and I'm selecting my Python file here. As soon as I selected Python file, in this pop-up, I'm clicking on an OK button. Automatically, it is prompting me with all the Python libraries available. Just click on an OK button. As soon as you clicked on an OK button, the complete info is getting displayed. On the first section, the Python got updated, and in the below section, the various packages, whatever are there, it got highlighted here, and just select on apply and click on OK button. Once this apply got successful, then you can click on an OK button. This is the basic configuration which you have to do within your Eclipse editor. Of course, we have to do a kind of a configuration in a PyCharm also, which we will see moving further. And guys, if you clearly observe, so far we configured an Eclipse editor and even we installed a PyCharm editor. It's up to you. Whichever the editor you want, you can go ahead and you can furtherly practice all the concepts in that particular editor. For me, in my situation, I'm going for a PyCharm, and I will continue my scripting and everything within a PyCharm editor. Now I'm clicking on an OK button for now. That's it. Earlier, we have an error message on the top, and now the error message was gone. And just click on a finish button. As soon as you clicked on a finish button, see this Python demo project got created, and this is how it's going to look like. So this is the way how we can configure Eclipse editor. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. See you again in the next session. Bye bye. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. In the last session, we have seen how to download and install PyCharm along with how to configure the Eclipse editor. Now, what I would like to do means let us try to create a small project within a PyCharm for which I just performed a double click operation on my PyCharm, whatever we have installed. This is the screen which is populating where you are selecting do not import the settings and click on an OK button. As soon as I clicked on an OK button, so it's asking our confirmation. So directly I'm clicking on I confirm that I have read and understood this one, and click on a continue button. Okay, so it's asking some data sharing. I don't want to send any data sharings, but I just clicked on don't send now. So this is how it got created, and it's giving me certain options like this is how you have to create and how you have to configure. So these are the two different options of which it is asking. Set UI themes, whether I can go with this theme or this theme, whichever the theme you want, you can go it. So I'm just going with the black theme, and then skip remaining and set the defaults. I just choose it that option. I don't want to do any other configuration within my PyCharm. Whatever the default configuration is there, I just want to go with that particular configuration itself. Hence, I have chosen that particular option, and now it will take a few seconds to load this particular screen. In this screen, we can create a new project. See, there is an option. Just click on create a new project. As soon as you clicked on a new project, it is asking for a title name. So this is what the location, and this is the name you want to give. So here I'm giving it as Python demo 1. Okay, my project name, I'm giving it as a Python demo 1, and click on a create button. Once after we created that, see, it is loading all the modules related to my project, and some kind of a tooltips it's getting displayed. So I'm just closing that. I don't want that tip. Basically, I'm just hitting okay. Okay, I'm trying to click on a close button. Still, it's loading, basically, creating a virtual environment. As at the very first time I'm creating this project in my PyCharm. So it's trying to download all the environments which are required for it. And now once it got loaded completely, I'm trying to click on this close button. As soon as I closed it, see, this is how my project looks like. On a left hand side, we have an explorer, see Python demo, and this is what it's going to display. So this is how it's going to display. Good enough. So what I'm going to do right now means right click on this Python demo one, new, and I'm choosing a file. Okay, so I can choose a direct Python file itself as I'm trying to create a new Python program. So I'm just clicking on a Python file itself, and I'm naming that particular Python file as demo1, or I can say example1. So, and it's a just a Python file. There are two more options, Python unit test or Python step. So I'm just selecting the Python file and select it. Automatically, it will take just a few seconds to create that particular file. And this is how the Python editor created a new file for us. And then once after we have created this file, we can write down our programs in this particular editor. So I can say this is Surendra Jagannatham trying to cover basics on this editor. So like that, I'm just typing something, but which is not an appropriate syntax. So we need to learn the syntaxes, whatever we have in Python. So let us see them first of all. So now what I'm going to do means, let me open this presentation. So whatever the presentation we have created. Once after we created a new project and a sample file, then we will try to see comments. So what exactly a comment is? These comments are created for a user understanding purpose itself. So the Python script won't execute these comments. Usually comments are added to our test script for a readability purpose itself. You know, assume that I have written few lines of a code using Python. If I share this piece of code to someone who don't have any idea, then it will be tough for them to understand. So that's the reason we will add comments to our test script, so that anyone just by looking into the comments, they can easily understand what we are trying to do. So we have two different types of comments. One is a single line comment and another is a multi-line comment. So what I'm doing means hash represents a single line comment. This is a single line comment. Okay, in the next line, let me try to print some name. In order to print some name in Python, we need to use a print statement. Print, open braces. I would like to print my name itself. So I'm just keeping that name in a double quotes, Surendra Jagannatham, and save it. That's it, guys. I haven't done anything, just I created a print and I saved it. So this is a single line comment. Whenever you added a hash before that, it's going to be a single line comment. And the keyboard shortcut key in order to do that particular one is, in order to add a single line comment, the keyboard shortcut key which we need to use is Control plus question mark. If you press these two things, automatically that line will be commented, which is a single line. And the next type of a comment out over here is a multi-line comments. So what exactly this a multi-line comments is? See, if at all we added any info between these lines, the three dots, we can treat it as a, or else a Python can internally treat it as a multi-line comments. This is a multi-line comment. Okay, directly I'm just adding it here. That's it, guys. So whatever the info you have represented within these dots, it can treat it as a multi-line comment. And hence, just by adding these comments, anyone who don't have any idea on automation testing or programming skills, just by looking into these lines, they can easily understand that what exactly the next few lines are going to perform. For better readability, we usually add comments to our test script. So we have a scene, print is a command which will be printing down the information to the console. So in detail about these examples, how we want to print this stuff, we will continue in the next lecture. Thank you. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Python training program. Today we are going to study a brief intro about this data types whatever we have. Python supports integer, float, string and various complex number different sets of data types. So what exactly an integer? An integer is a number without a decimal point. For example, 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, all these comes under an integer. If you can jump onto a float with a decimal point, we can treat a number as a float. See here 6.7, 6.10, 10.9, all these things we can treat it as a float. Whereas if you go for a complex number, here are the examples for this complex number. In the real world, assume that you are working on an e-commerce application where the pricing plays a crucial role. There, you can use a float data type where the price is a combination of the decimal values and as well as an integers. Okay, so let us jump on to our PyCharm and see a simple example. See guys, in the last session, we have created a simple example which has a print statement and we added a single line comment and as well as a multi-line comment. So when I run my, when I perform a right click operation on my script, you do have an option as a run as an example one. Click on an example one, the script is getting executed and see the output is printing to the console which is Surendra Jagannatham. See here, let me highlight that particular one. See here is a console where it is printing that particular output. See the Surendra Jagannatham, it got a printed to the console. For suppose if I change this value to not Surendra Jagannatham, if I change it to Lucky Trainings, and now when I run my example one, this time it is printing the updated value. So this is the way how to use a simple program in order to print some information to the console. Now let us jump on and see how can we create a simple program which will perform the various kinds of an operations on numbers and floats and as well as the another type available, for which I'm creating a new file again. New, that too it's going to be a Python file and example 2, selecting this Python file. See the new file got a created. Now in this, first of all, I would like to create an example for integer. I'm writing down my text here. Below lines represent integer example, and I want to comment down this line, so I'm pressing control and question mark in my keyboard, or I can directly add a hash in the starting. Automatically this line will be a comment. Anyone just by looking into this line can understand what exactly the action we are performing here. Usually in Java or any other programming languages, we usually specify the data type. Okay, we usually specify the data type in which it's just creating integer, float like that. Whereas here in Python, you no need to specify that. See, a is equal to 10. So directly the data a is being stored here. B is equal to 20. So I have a defined a and b, which are two integers. And the similar way, C is equal to 10.25, D is equal to 11.25. So I have a defined two integers and as well as a two floats. Now, what I'm going to do, I can use a print method, and using the print, I know if there is an two numbers, I can perform some operation. See, print A plus B, the content present in a and B, it's going to add and we are trying to print that information. The similar way, print C plus D are the two options which I'm trying again. I'm just adding these two. So let me try to run my script and see whether it is executing or not. So run as a Java application. See here guys, 30 and 25, the sum of these two numbers got a printed. The first is the sum of an integers and the second is the sum of a float. The two got a printed here, but just by looking into the numbers, it's a bit confusing for me. So what I'm going to do right now means, let me comment these two lines. So I'm just commenting these two lines. Now what I'm doing means, E is equal to A plus B. So the sum of these two numbers, A and B, the result I'm storing it in a E, and the similar way, F is equal to C plus D. So we stored these two numbers into E, and we stored the sum of a float numbers into here. So I am adding a comment on top of it. Below E is the sum of integers. And the similar way, adding a comment, below F is the sum of floats. Even, print E, and the similar way print F. Even in this situation also, there is no much differ. The reason is, earlier we are just printing the value in the print statement, are adding the numbers in a print statement, and now we are storing it and we are printing it. It doesn't makes any difference. So what I want to do right now is, let me add a comment. I want to add some message and the desired value. To do so, whatever the message you want to print, place it in double quotes within the print and use plus symbol followed by your desired value. Okay, see here, what I'm trying to do is integer sum is, okay, integer sum is plus E, and the similar way float sum is plus F. Okay, I have given this particular stuff now. And now let me try to run my script and see the error here. See here, the error, what it is stating is a type error. Can only concatenate a string, not an integer to a string. See, the point out over here is, whenever we represented something in double quotes, okay, whenever we represented something in double quotes, it will treat it as a string. Treat it as a string. Okay, string is another data type. So we can't, or else Python can't add a string and a number directly. That's what the error message is. Then how I need to print the text followed by a number. How I am going to do that? See here, can only use a string itself. So here I need to change the type of this E to a string so that I can print that info to the console. To do so, what I want to do right now is, whatever the variable you want to print, add str open braces variable close the braces. Automatically that variable will be converted into a string. See here, I want to go this one. So plus str of E, the similar way str of F. That's it. Let me run my script and see, run example 2. See here, integer sum is 30, float sum is 21.5. So guys, if you clearly observe this example, see this is a multi-line comment, whatever I have added. So what I have done in this script, guys, if you clearly observe, done in this script is, okay, we created two integers and two strings. Later, we added both of them, and finally, we tried to print the sum with appending a string. We encountered an error and we fixed that issue. So like this, we can create a simple script, guys. Okay, like this, we can create a simple script. So this is a simple script, how to print the sum of these numbers, and we can convert it into a different data type, integer into a string. So we have seen how to use a string, how to use an integer, and how to use a float as well. String means, guys, there is nothing to define a string. P is equal to this is a Surendra. This is a string. If something is representing in a double quotes, we can treat it as a string. P, this is equal to Surendra is a string. We have a defined here. That's it. And print. This time, I want to print P directly. And when I run my test script as an example, so it is throwing some error message in the line number 23. Let us see where it is. So it's having some issue with this spacing, guys. So I just used that spaces properly, and when I try to run my test script, this is Surendra got printed. But my requirement here is I don't want to print a P directly. I would like to append some data. Surendra QA trainer, and he is a, my text is good trainer plus P. See here, in this situation, what it will happen, the content of whatever I have represented is a string plus the value whatever we have stored in a P is a string. We are adding two strings. Below print is adding two strings. Hence, it should not throw any error messages. Let me run my script and see. Okay, run as a run example 2. See, Surendra QA trainer, he's a good trainer, so it got a printed to the console. In an earlier example, we encountered an error message. The reason is there we tried to add string plus a integer, hence we got an error. In this example, we are adding a string and a string, hence we didn't got any error messages. So this is all about an integer, float, and a string. How can we perform a basic operation on all of them? And now, once we are done up to here, there is another simple commands of which we can use it here. So what I'm doing means I'm creating another Python file, example 3, and here a equal to 3, b equal to 10.25, c is equal to this is Surendra. Right, I have added a, b, and a c, three different variables here. How would I know what exactly Python is considering it A as, how Python is considering B as, and how Python is considering C as? So if you switch back to the running notes, we have a type function. We can use a type function to find out the class of a number. See here, type of A. See, this type of a, that's it. So what I'm going to do, if you observe here, an integer number belongs to a integer class, a float number belongs to a float class, and other string belongs to a string class. So what I'm going to do right now means print type of a, the similar way print type of a B. Let me try to run my script and see how this is going to work. See here, the class is an integer, the class is a float. So A, it is considering as an integer, B, it is considering as a float. Okay, so type is a method which is used to see which data type Python is considering the variables. Okay, whatever the variables Python is considering, we can see that particular one here using this one. Okay, good enough. Done the deal. And then the next example here we have is an is instance. Is instance is a function which will check whether that number belongs to a particular class or not. And if it is returning true means it's belonging to the same class. If it is returning false means it's not belonging to the same set. An example for this particular one is instance, and I'm saying a comma, I know the class of a is an integer. I'm just defining like that. Okay, so print is instance a comma int. When I run my script, it returned the output as a true for the last statement. For suppose if I change it to float, and when I run my test script, it's returning as a false. The meaning is A, it is an integer. Python is considering as an integer, and you are asking that it's a float, which is not the same, hence it is getting failed. So type and is instance are the two different methods which we can use it internally, and we can play operations on the data types. Okay, so this is a high level overview on a database, guys. Data types, guys. Okay, thank you very much. See you again in the next session. Bye bye. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. In the last session, we discussed a brief overview on integer, float, and as well as a string. And now, in the today's class, we will see more details about this string data type and the various operations we can perform on that. String is nothing but an array of a characters, so we can use the indexes to access the characters of a string. Just like an array, the indexes of a string will start from 0, and n minus 1 represents the last character within a string. We can store a string in a single quotes, double quotes, and as well as a triple quote. Let me show you an example for the same. So I'm just going to my PyCharm, and I'm creating a new script for me. So new, okay, new Python file, example 4. Okay, I created a new example for here. So A, this is B. What I'm doing, B is Surendra, and C, I would like to store this information in a triple quote. And I'm adding a triple quote here, one more quote. So stating that welcome to Surendra's QA training program. Okay, I'm adding again 3. Okay, here, that's it. So this is another stuff what we have defined. And now print A. Okay, print A, print B, and C. So I would like to print A, B, and C. B, and finally, I would like to print C. Let me run my script and see how it's going to execute. See, all the 3 strings got a printed to the console. See, all the 3 strings got a printed to the console. This is the way how exactly we can define the strings. And then, for suppose, assume that we have, I'm just deleting, I'm just commenting these 3 lines now. And the next one here is we need to add the 2 strings. The content present in a and a B I want to add. See here, print A plus B. So plus is an operator which we are using in order to concatenate one string to another string. If my requirement is to add 2 different strings, I can use a plus operator. Now, when I run my example, the output is this is Surendra got a printed to the console. So hence I can use plus operator as my concatenation, which is used to add 2 different strings or multiple strings. It's up to you how many you want. You can add it just by using a plus operator. And then the next point is we can use a star operator to repeat a string by a specific number of times. What does it mean? See here, what I am going to do right now means print. See here, we have this one itself, right? Print A plus B. So it is stating that we need to use a string star 3 so that the output will be printed for 3 times. See here, I'm using star 4. Okay, let me run my example. See here, this is Surendra, this is Surendra, this is Surendra got a printed to the console. Or else, for suppose I don't want A plus B, I just want to print only B. And now, when I run my example for, see Surendra, 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 Surendra got printed for 4 different times. We can use a star operator. We can use a star operator, okay, to print the value or to print the string for those many times. Depending on your need, you can use it. And the next point out over here is we do have an operation which is a in and a not in order to compare two different strings. In this checks whether a string is present in an another string or not. It will return true if both the strings are equal. It will return a false if both the strings are not equal. So let me try this example now. So here we are just discussing about in now, so which is used to compare two different strings. So here we have a given an example also. So what I am doing right now means print. Okay, so I'm just comparing A in B. See, I know the value in A is the says and B is a Surendra. I know these two are not equal. So whenever I run my test script, see the output it returned as a false, stating that both are not equal. The similar way, we have a not in method also, which is used to see whether both are not equal or not. See here, not in. And now when I run my test script again, this time it returned as a true. The reason is the content present in A and B both are not equal. See, I'm adding a comment. If the content present in both the strings is equal, then it will return a true. If the content present in both the strings is not equal, then it will return a true. So this is how we are going to define these two stuff. So these are the basic examples on a string, and depending on our requirement, we can perform further operations also. Thank you. See you again in the next session. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. Yesterday, we discussed about a string and overview on other data types. Now, I would like to explain a list and the various options we have inside a list. List is a data type that allows you to store various types into that. So a combination of an integer, float, a string, all these things, I can store it in a list. See, here is an example for that. In this example, it contains only a set of strings. Now, let me switch to my PyCharm, and I'm creating a new program where in which I just want to show you how to create a list. See here, example 6, and here on a left hand side, you have to define a variable name equal to, if you have represented anything within these braces, it will treat it as a list. So I'm defining Surendra as a first value, and the second value is an integer, third value is Ramya, and the fourth value is Sneha. As of now, I have a defined four values, which is a combination of integer and a string in a list. When we use a print method, automatically print of list, automatically the values present in the list will be printed. For suppose if my requirement is to know how many values are there in a particular list. In such situations, we can use length of a list name. Automatically, it will be getting the total number of values present in a list. Okay, automatically it will be getting total number of values present in a list. See here, I'm doing a print of len of a. So when I run my test script, that should print the total number of values in a list as 4. 4 got returned to the console. For suppose if my requirement is, okay, if my requirement is to get a specific value from a list, which means I want to get second value from the list. Then what I can do, right? We should know a mechanism how to get an individual value from a list. Basically, we can use list name of followed by a index. Every value in the list will start with 0th index. 0, it means first value in the list. Index of 1 means second value in the list. Index 2 means third value in the list. Like that, we have to define. If you would like to get the last value in the list, we can go with n minus 1, which will get last value in the list. Okay, which will be getting the last value in that particular list. In my situation, I just want to get the first value. If you would like to get the first value, we need to define index as a 0. See here, print a of 0. The similar way, print a of 1. Let us add a of 2 and a of 3. I know there are four values are there. 0 represents first value, 1 represents second, third, like that. When I run my test script, you know, okay, it's having some syntax error. Which line? The 13th line. Okay, guys, here I added a colon, but I have to add a dot, right? That's it. I just corrected that line number 13. See, in the line number 13, it's displaying an error message. It's mentioning here. I corrected that. And when I run my example 6, see, individual values in the list got retrieved and it got printed to the console. So in order to access the individual values from a list, we have to use this list name. Okay, the syntax out over here in order to access that particular one is list name of index. Automatically, it will be capturing that particular value from the list. And for suppose, if I would like to add some value to my list, right? A dot append is a method. Append is a method of which I'm using in order to add a value. So initially my list has a four values. Now I am adding lucky trainings to that. Okay, lucky trainings to that list. And now finally print a. Upon appending a value to a list, I'm trying to print the whole list. When I execute it, see here, Surendra, 2, Ramya, Sneha, and Lucky Trainings got appended at last. Or I can say Lucky Trainings got added at last. Like this, we can perform the various kinds of operations on a list. In the real world, we will be using this append, index of, and the length method. All these stuff we are going to use as part of our WebDriver programming. This is a brief overview about list, guys. That's all I have for today. See you again in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. Today we are going to discuss about the conditional statements. So why these conditional statements are required for us? See, really in an automation world, these conditional statements will derive lots and lots of functions for us, lots and lots of uses for us basically. In a simple example, what I can say means, assume that you have a test case to log in into your Gmail application. If the login is successful, then it should verify the inbox button. If the login is failed, then it should print a fail message and stop the script execution. In such situations, we can use a conditional statements. In majority of the situations, to see whether something got displayed or not. In such situations, we can use this conditional statements. If statements are control flow statements, which helps us to run a particular code only when a certain condition got satisfied. If the condition is satisfied, then only run this code. Else, you no need to run this particular code. The syntax for this if is if followed by a condition name, and if that condition is true, then you have to write down the logic, corresponding logic inside that. So like this, you have to define the if block. So what I'm going to do right now means, let me switch back to my editor, create a new program, and see how this is going to work. New Python file, example 7, and here a equal to 5, b equal to 4. See, I would like to write down an if condition. See here, I would like to write an if condition. If A is greater than B, then print A is big to the console. Okay, like this, I want to do that. So, if space. So, it is asking for a condition A greater than B. So A greater than B is the condition. If you observe the syntax, immediately after the condition, you need to give a colon here. So I'm entering a colon and immediately I'm pressing an enter from my keyboard. As soon as I press enter in my keyboard, guys, if you clearly observe the seventh line, it is starting from here. Okay, the seventh line, it is starting from here, whereas the sixth line is starting in this particular place, whereas for the seventh line we have a huge space followed by this line is starting. So why this much of a space we have for this seventh line? See, in other programming languages, whenever we started down a condition, there it has an open braces followed by a closed braces, which will state that the logic defined within these braces will be applicable to a if block. Whereas in a Python programming, we don't have that much braces and all those things. So directly, we do have a space, a tab space for everything. If I define a if condition, as soon as I press the enter, it is starting from here, which means that the lines which are starting in this tab space will execute inside my if block. See, let me show you an example for that. So here, print A is a big. For suppose I have a started here. Now let me run my script for now. Run as an example 7. A is big got printed. For suppose in this example I have a value as a 5 and a B value as a 4. Now I am changing to B value to 14. When I run my example 7, nothing is getting printed. The reason is as this condition got a failed, nothing is there. For suppose if I am writing something in a ninth line at the starting. Print test completed. See here, the ninth line is starting with the starting position itself. It doesn't have any tab space in that. When I run my test script, see, test completed. So the point out over here is if anything is having after a tab space, then it is applicable to A greater than B. How would I know this the line number 7 is applicable to A greater than B? See here, guys, if you observe at this particular point, I have a highlighted. Okay, I'm placing my cursor in the seventh line and it is displaying as a greater than B. For suppose I changed my cursor position to the ninth line, the place whatever I have highlighted, it's not displaying anything. If I place that particular line number 7, it is stating that this line comes under an if block A greater than B. Like that, it is displaying here. So the bottom line is whenever you are starting any kind of a conditional statements, methods, whatnot, everything in this Python, you just need to follow inside with a tab space. If I have a tab space, then it will fall inside a if. For suppose I removed this tab space, what it will happen? See, let me try to run my script and see how this is going to work. See here, I'm getting an error message, and that particular error message out over here is expected an intended block basically, right? Indentation error basically we are getting here. So whenever you started anything, it should have a tab space followed by that. Okay, now when I run my example, I am not getting that particular error message. So if I use any if conditions or for loops, while loops, methods, anything, then immediately after this column, you should have certain lines which will have a tab space. And for suppose in my eighth line, I can say I can start it from here, not a problem. Not a props are here. So when I run my test scripts, it can execute it. That's not a big deal basically. Okay, so like this, we need to define a conditional statements. In this example, guys, straightforward, we have a logic for only if. So it means if this condition is a true, then only the logic present in the if block will be executed. So we do have an else also. Else print B is a big. So I'm stating that if the condition is a true, then execute the logic present in an if block. If the condition is a false, then execute the logic present in an else block. So when I run this script, in this situation, B is a big got printed as this condition is a false. A is a 5, B is 14, A greater than B is false. Hence it is directly executing the else block code. Whatever the code we have in an else block, it's executing that. Depending on our need, we can use this if else block, nested if else. Too many blocks are there, but we will see those examples moving further whenever we are working on WebDriver directly. But here we can see a simple example of a if and a if else. See, this is an example for if else. Let me add an example for if A greater than B, print A is a big. That's it. So this is an example for if else, and this is an example for if. That's it. Nothing more than that. So this is the basic concept which I have in this session, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. Today we are going to discuss about looping statements. Why these looping statements are required for us. Assume that your requirement is to print the numbers from 1 to 10. I have to give this print statement for 10 different lines. For suppose, if your requirement is to print 100 or 1000 numbers, will you give this line for 1000 times? It's not a realistic one, right? So definitely we should have certain mechanism in place which I have to write for one time, but it should execute multiple times. There comes this loops comes into the picture. A loop is used for iterating over a set of statements repeatedly. A group of statements or set of statements or a single statement, in order to perform it repeatedly, we are using this looping statements. In Python, we have a three different types of a loops: for loop, while loop, and as well as a do while loop. So the syntax for the for loop is for, variable, in, the sequence. So here, what I'm going to do right now means, let me switch back to my editor and I'm creating a new file, example 9. And here I'm defining A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have these many values are there in this list. We can call A as a list. A is a list which has 10 different values in that. So what exactly my requirement is, I want to print all the values in the list one after another. Assume that this is your requirement. You want to print the values in a list one after another. The syntax is for, variable, in. See here, if you observe the document in, the sequence is a. Like this, you have to define this particular logic. Okay, so let me try defining this for, and the variable I'm defining it as in num, in a, in a. And here what I want to do means print num. Okay, I'm just printing num here. Now what exactly this num contains and all those things we'll see now. Let me run my test script now. Whenever I executed my test script, see here, all the values are got printed to the console starting from 1 to 10. How many values are there in a list? All the values got printed. So here what it is happening internally means, whatever the values are there in the list, it will be picking from 0th index, means from the first value, and storing it in num. So whenever we printed num, all the values in the list starting from the first till the last value got printed to the console. Okay, starting from first till the last value, it got printed to the console. See here, I have defined it as a. So A means, the meaning out over here is rotate this for loop in all the values present in a list. For suppose if your requirement is to print only for 4 values, then what I can do out over here is instead, so this is a one type of a for loop, and the next type of a for loop I am writing here is a for num in range of 3. So I'm defining it as a 3, print and um. See this range, I'm defining it as a 5. Okay, I'm just ranging it as a 5. Now, when I run my example, see it is printing the range up to 5. If I range it as a 10, and when I run my example, see here up to 10, whatever the values are there, it's trying to print the values. Here, this range is nowhere related to here in the range example. It's nowhere related to your list as we have a given a number. Your for loop is considering that number and it is printing all the values in that number range itself. And moreover, it is starting from 0th index, which will be the first value. But my requirement is I don't want to start from 0th index. I would like to start from second index. Okay, so I just want to start it from the second index. So in such situations, what I can do means let me comment out this for loop and let me recreate a new for loop with a range again. See here, for num int range start index is 2 comma 10, and here print num. Okay, print num. See here I'm giving a 2 comma 10. Let me run my example. See, when it got executed this time, it started printing from 2 comma 10. See here, it started printing from 2 comma 10. Like that it's going to apply. So here we can use a range method and we can use a start index and as well as a stop index for that particular range. So this is the way how to create a for loop and how to customize a for loop depending on our needs. So in the real world, whenever you are working on your projects, we will be getting a list of data from a browser, and we are using a combination of a for loop and as well as a range methods in order to print all the values from the list. Okay, in order to print all the values from the list, we are using a combination of all these things. Okay, cool. So this is a simple example about a for loops. In the next session, we will see a brief examples on a while and as well as a do while loops. Thank you. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. In the last session, we discussed about a for loop, and now I just want to give you a small example on a while loop in this session. So almost the for and while the functionality is one and the same, which is to execute the group of statements whenever the condition got passed. So now here in a while loop, we need to define a condition, and whenever that condition is true, the logic whatever we have defined in a while loop will be keep on executing it. So let me give you a simple example on this while loop. So I'm switching to my editor and I'm creating a new file. So new Python file, and I'm giving a name as an example 10. And here int, sorry, a is equal to 1. So I have defined a as a 1. So in the while, we need to define a condition. So here, while a less than 10. So it will be checking whether the a value is less than 10 or not. True, it is true. Print a. So it's going to print this a variable. But if you observe in this situation, if I am running my test script without performing any further logic, without adding anything, then it will be an infinity loop means it won't come out from the execution. Okay, it won't come out from the execution. Always it will execute continuously. The reason is here a value is 1 and this 1 is less than 10. Always this loop is executing and we haven't specified any condition to terminate that particular loop. For that reason, what I am doing means a is equal to a plus 1. I have defined a as an increment 1. So for the first time, it will see 1 less than 10. It will print 1 and it will increment the a value by 1, which becomes 2. 2 less than 10. So in this situation, upon adding the last line, what it will happen means it will increment the a value by 1 every time, and after 10 times a will become 11, right? A will become 11. 11 less than 10, as the condition is a false, it will come out of the loop. Okay, it will come out of the loop. So we need to specify these kind of a conditions also. Okay, these kind of a logics we need to derive properly. See here, 1 to 9, all the values got to printed to the console. That's it. And usually a quick question will rise in our mind. It was supposed to print a 10, right? Why it printed only 9? See here, we have a given a logical less than 10. So if you have a included equal to, less than or equal to, then it will be considering the last value also. If you have a given just a less than, automatically it will be considering all the values and it won't consider 10. But if you consider as a equal to, then it will be picking up all the values. Like that, you have to define a simple while loop in our project as in this way. Depending on your need and requirement, you can either use a for loop or while loop in your projects. And majority of the situations, we will be picking a for loop and like how we used a range in a for loop, we are going to use in a similar way. The most frequent ways of using we will be seeing with examples in WebDriver. Once we switch to the WebDriver, then we will see bunch of examples related to this stuff. Okay, so this is a basic concept on while loop. Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. Today we are going to study about a functions. What exactly a function is? A function is a set of statements that takes the inputs, do specific computations and produce some outputs. Okay, that's fine. Why we need a function? Let me give you a simple example out over here. So the main reason why we need a functions itself is a code reusability. So reusability means we can create it for one time and we can use it for multiple times. Okay, we can create it just for once and we can use it for multiple times. For that particular reason, we are using this one. So what is this reusability? We need to know in bit more realistic way. So the example for this one is assume that we have a three testers. Tester 1, tester 2 and a tester 3. And the scenario we have a given to the first tester is a create user and the second guy is an edit user and the third person is a delete user. Assume that this is a program example. Okay, programming example. For suppose we have another example also, okay, which is a real world. So in the real world example, what I can say means real world example. And let me explain for this real world example first, and then we will move on to the programming example. In the real world, assume that you have a purchased an account in an Amazon.com and you are trying to purchase a product for the first time. At the very first time, whenever you are trying to purchase a product, in the payment gateway, it will prompt you to the various options where assume that we have a selected a credit card info. Upon entering the credit card, there will be a checkbox for us, which is save card info to your account. So upon selecting that checkbox, moving further, whenever you are trying to purchase any particular product, this credit card will be pre-populated. Then you no need to enter the card information all the time. You just need to pass on the secret pin and proceed with your transaction. So what I have done, I selected the checkbox and I reduced my effort in entering the card info every time. So which is a reusability. One time I entered, I'm reusing it for the multiple times. The similar way, if you jump on to this programming example, the first user should log in and then create, and then he need to log out from the application. The similar way, he needs to log in, edit, and log out. The similar way, log in, delete, log out. So in these situations, if you clearly observe, every time the user is logging in, the tester needs to write down a program to log in and to log out from an application. Instead of rewriting the code for multiple times, we can simply create login and a logout as a functions, and everyone can simply call those functions. So that we are reducing the effort for the other two developers. So tester 1 has completed the code for login and a logout. Tester 2 and tester 3 can simply reuse the code whatever the tester 1 has prepared, which we can call it as a functions. Okay, good enough. And even there is a unique syntax for these functions too. So the syntax for is here for def function name. And if you would like to perform operations using a parameters, you can pass on the parameters and you can write down the respective logic, and we can add a return statement. And return statement for any method is an optional. Okay, let me jump on to my PyCharm and let me create a new test script here, example 11, and here let me paste that syntax here so that I can easily write down my script. So go back and paste it here, and now let me create a function def sum, and I would like to add a plus, or else I can say 3 plus 4. Okay, C is equal to 3 plus 4 and print C. So this function, or else this method, is having a sum method, and in this sum we are writing down 3 plus 4 and we are storing the result in a C, and we are printing that particular C. Now, if you observe, we created a function. We need to know how to call a function. Calling is function name. We just need to call the function name. So my function name is a sum. That's it. And this method doesn't have any parameters. Now, let me run my test script. See here, the sum it returned as a 7. So here, if I'm changing the value to 3 plus 7, and when I run my test script, the output it returned as a 10. But the problem out over here is these values are user defined. So what we can say means we are restricting the sum method to always perform some of these 3 plus 7 itself. If I call this method for 10 different times, all the time it is printing only this value itself, which is a 10, which is not my requirement. So my requirement is I want to create a method in such a way that, okay, I want to create a method in such a way that I need to pass on the values for which it should perform some operation. Okay, for which it should perform the sum operation. So there comes parameters to a function comes into picture. Okay, so we need to pass on parameters to a particular function, and where we will be passing those parameters after the function name, we are opening a braces, right? Within the braces you have to pass those parameters. See, def add a comma b, and here c is equal to a plus b and print C. And finally here, what so here, change it to D and print D. And finally, what I'm going to do right now, add 3 comma 4 for the very first time. And the second time, I can change this value to 13, 14. And the third time, I can change it to 23rd, 24. And the fourth time, I can change it to these many. So whenever I'm calling that particular method, I can change my desired values. And now when I run my test script, see my sum is performing on a different sets of data. Okay, on a different sets of data. And my next requirement is I want to store the output of the methods into a variable so that moving further, I can use that data. In such situations, we can use a return statement to a function. How to use a return statement? See here, return that variable. See here, I'm creating another method now. So what I'm doing means def adding number a comma b, and here e is equal to a plus b, and return e. That's it. I'm returning this e. Now adding number 2 comma 3, but I know the result is okay, the return type of this particular one is a e, so directly I can store sum is equal to, or else if it is confusing, p1 is a integer variable which I am creating, print p1. So when I run my test script this time, the P1 value it is printing to the console. So I can use this P1 and I can further perform and if conditions or some other logics, whatever I want, I can do that. So on top of it, instead of printing this one, if P1 is greater than 3, print some value is greater than 3. Like that I can print, I can customize my code depending on our need, we can use it. So if you clearly observe, we created a function without any arguments. Later, we created a function with an arguments. And finally, we created a function with a return statement and we are calling that particular one. So these are all the various examples of how can we create a particular function, guys. So the next point out over here is what are all the various types of functions we have? See, there are two different types of functions available in Python. One is a built-in functions and the second one is the user defined functions. The functions whatever we have created right now as per our application requirement, we can call that particular functions as a user defined functions. See here, the definition is the functions which we create in our code are a user defined functions. Depending on our project specific requirement, we are going to create these user defined functions. Whereas the another set of functions is a built-in functions. These functions are predefined in a Python, and we need to use those existing functions. You can't customize them. Whatever the predefined functions are there, depending on our need, we can call those functions. So there are lots and lots of predefined functions we have in a Python. Depending on our need, we are going to use them. And immediately a quick question will rise in our mind: how can I use those built-in functions? Using an import statement to your test script, we can use the built-in functions. Whatever the built-in functions are there available in a Python library, we can use an import statement in your test script and you can get them. For suppose I'm switching back to my existing program, what we have created now. On top of my test script, I'm using import space. See, these many customized or the predefined functions are there. Among all those things, I'm just using a math like this. Okay, whichever you want, you can choose it and you can import it. So once after you imported the math functions here, what are all the customized functions are there with respect to this math, we can use it. So we don't know anything about the customized methods and all those things. Slowly moving further, we will see more details about these imports, how to use the various imports and how to call these imports and other stuff we will be discussing moving further. Cool. So this is a high level overview on a functions, user defined functions, built-in functions and how to import them. So thank you guys. See you again in the next session. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Python training program. So far we studied about a different concepts on Python programming, and now the next and a most important thing which we are going to study is about OOPS concepts, and furthermore we will see how to create a class and how to create an object in Python we are going to study. So Python is an object oriented programming language. So, what exactly an object oriented programming means? It is a methodology which simplifies the software development and the maintenance by providing some set of rules, which we can call it as an OOPS concept. By default, OOPS means class, object, inheritance, polymorphism, all those things. Among all those concepts, for now, let us see an overview on class and an object. A class is a blueprint from where the individual objects got created. For example, Ramesh, Suresh, Satish, Rajesh, or the various objects, we can define a template from a human being. Okay, the class can define a common attributes and as well as the behaviors. The combination of all these things we can treat it as a class. In another terms, we can say, assume that we are studying in a college, and we have 1,000 people within a college. The exam application form, which is common for all the 1,000 people, we can call it as a blueprint, which we can treat it as a class. For suppose if one person filled the complete form, it has specific information related to one particular person, which we can treat it as an object. So let us see an overview on an object. An object is an entity that has an attribute and as well as a behavior. For suppose Rajesh is an object who has an attribute such as a height, weight, and a color, and as well as behaviors like a walking, talking, and a eating. So usually within our Python program, we can create a class and we can create an object. With the help of an object, we can access the information present in a different class. So let me show you a simple example for the same. So this is how the example looks like. Okay, this is how a complete example looks like. So let us switch to our editor and see how can we create an example for this. Okay, so I just opened my editor and I'm creating a new Python file. New Python file, example 12. And to this file, if you observe the syntax, class space a class name. So here I'm defining class demo class. And here, whatever the content you are going to represent here, it's going to be in this particular class itself. So switch back to the document and see here within the class, if you can specify some text in a three quotes, we can say that particular text as a doc string. Okay, the string that we mention in a triple quotes, we can call it as a dot string, which is an optional string that briefly explains the purpose of the class. So let's go back here. I'm representing the stuff in a three quotes now, stating that this is a sample class which I'm creating for understanding this class and an object. That's it. That's what I have created. Okay. Once after we have created this doc string, in order to print that content in that doc string, see here, print class name dot doc. Automatically, it's going to print the doc string. See here, demo class is our class name underscore doc. So let me try to run my test script. See here, this is a sample class which I'm creating. So whatever the content we have given, it just printed to that. Usually the content what we are giving in the triple quotes is describing the complete functionality for that particular class. What we are going to write down the logic in that particular class, we are going to define it out over here. Good enough. So let me create another class now. So Python file example 13. Okay, example 13, and here class demo class again. So here within this demo class, I would like to write down certain functionality. So the functionality what I'm going to write down out over here is, okay, so these three braces, and I am defining it as, okay, the functionality what I'm going to write down out over here is in this class, Let us create a method and a variables and see how can we access them using an object. Okay, I have a defined this particular stuff. So the ultimate objective is I have to define a variable. Num is equal to 10. So I have a defined a variable num with a value as a 10, or if num is confusing, I'm defining a variable and the value which I stored in a is a 10. Def sum, and see here, whenever I type it as a sum, automatically in the braces self is coming. I don't know what exactly self for now, but now I'm just leaving it and I am printing hello sample program. Okay, good enough. So I created a class and it has this information, which is a method along with this variable. Right, guys? So let us see how to create an object. So obj is equal to demo class. Whatever the class is there, demo class, I have to create an object for that. And now using this particular object, I can access this variable and as well as I can access this particular method also. Okay, fine. Let us see here. Object dot, see here my variable is a, see it is automatically coming here a, so directly I'm using a print statement. The similar way, object dot, see I can access the sum method, even I just wanna print it. See, the sum method itself has a logic to print the information. I'm not using anything. Now when I run this example, see here both the stuff it is getting executed. So this is a class, and like this you have to create an object, and like this using an object we can access the content. So this is an object creation, and the syntax is obj is equal to class name, for which class you want to create an object, and then obj name dot the desired method we can call it. Okay, obj name dot a desired method we have to call it. That's it. This is the simple thing which you people need to remember. This is a simple class and how to create an object to that a simple class. Okay, cool. So guys, if you observe this sum method, we have a self keyword which was automatically added by my editor. So let us see what exactly the self meaning is. So generally, class methods must have an extra first parameter in the method definition. We do not give a value for this parameter. We will call the method. Python usually provides it. Okay, when we call that method, Python usually provides that first parameter. If we have a method which takes no argument, then we still have to pass one argument, which is a self. If you observe this, some example, whatever we have created, we don't have any parameters in that, but still my Python is considering self as a default parameter for that. This is similar to that of a pointer concept in a C++ with reference to that of a Java concept as well. When we call a method of this particular object, this is automatically converted by Python into my objects. This is all the simplicity and the specific self functionality is about. Okay, so this is a basic functionality. One thing which we need to consider is self is by default for every class whatever we are creating. Okay, whatever the method we are creating, using this self we can access the information. Moving further in the programming, Python and Selenium programming, we will study more about this self and the other concepts, guys. Okay, so that's all I have for today. See you again in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye.